hate putty work. I forgot how sticky this stuff can get. Alright guys, today we're going to do a little bit of putty work, and I got two different types here. I got Tamiya basic put type, and then we have this right here, which is a bit different. You'll have to mix these two together in equal amounts to do everything, but we'll get into all that. Now this one is more of a kind of a watery, a much thinner putty, and I mainly use this for when I'm scribing and I mess up or don't like a panel line or something like that, and I can fill it in. So I've scribed a couple of quick lines here. I got a 0.2 and a 0.5 line here. I just panel line them, build them in so they're easier to see on camera. And we'll be using this on that. Like I said, these right here, you cut off in equal parts and you'll mix them together. And we'll use these to fill in some of these different hard points you see here on the kit that I won't be using, so I'm going to fill those in and smooth those out. And this is also actually a good type of putty to use for sculpting as well, if you want to elongate a part or add a little bit more definition to it. But we won't be doing any of that sort of deal today, just filling in some points and giving you some basics on using putty here. But you will want, well, not panel liner, we don't need that, something to spread this one with. So you can use something like a popsicle stick. I got a bag of them here, toothpicks, and these type of Q-tips. Now these aren't like your regular Q-tips. They're not very soft on the ends. They are kind of squishy, but they're pretty stiff pointed, so they work better than don't use a regular Q-tip. And then for this stuff, of course, we'll need a hobby knife to cut off our sections and everything. You'll mix them together by hand, but when you're using this type of putty, you will want to use a have some water on hand, because it gets very sticky and you'll be dipping your fingers in the water, kind of keep them from sticking to your fingers as you mold it and play with it and everything and get into where you need it. But you'll see that all here in a moment, so we'll start off with this stuff and we'll get going. Alright, now when it comes to using this stuff, it's like I said, a thinner putty and everything, so it can get a little messy. It is pretty easy to use, but you want to keep something like paper towel or something on hand for both of these different types of putty, to be honest. So I have these little containers like you see there for the water that I had, the lids to those. These work great, just something to kind of squirt some of this stuff onto, put a dollop on there, and then we'll spray it on the part here real quick. And that's probably much more than I'm going to need actually, but hey, better safe than sorry, I say. Now I'm going to try using these Q-tips for this, just kind of basically paint it on there. It doesn't have to be smooth or pretty, just make sure everything is filled in when you do this. So let's get you a nice good glob of stuff. Okay, that's more than I needed. Yeah, you just want to get it all filled in. Like I said, this is pretty straightforward and simple. It's kind of back and forth a little bit, kind of work it down into that panel line. And you see how thin this sort of stuff is. You don't want to do major fills with this because it'll take forever to dry, for one thing. I tried it, trust me. Couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, but anyways. And we'll go and get this other one too. Same difference, just kind of work it in there. Now that it's on there, I want to take the other end of this and just kind of see about scraping some of this excess off. So there's not quite as much for us to have to sand off when we're done with this part. Alright, so you'll be leaving this for, I'd probably say, at least a good 12 hours, if not any longer. Ooh, I still kind of see that panel line through there a little bit. Add a little bit more there. Right, as I was saying, you probably want to at least leave this for 12 hours or more to make sure it sets really well. And since you're doing such a thin application, just filling in like little panel line mistakes, or if you slip when you're scribing and you have a gouge off to the side, use this sort of stuff, just kind of put it right there where you need it. That way you can sand it off, clean it up, and smooth it out. But we'll let this sit, and we'll get on to the epoxy putty from Tamiya real quick. Alright, now this is a Tamiya epoxy putty, quick type, and don't let the name fool you, there's really nothing quick about it. But I'll throw a picture of the packaging and everything on the screen somewhere. Since I don't have it anymore, I keep it in a Ziploc bag. But with this stuff, you're going to want your water here to keep your fingers wet, because you're going to be playing with this junk. And we're going to cut off some equal parts here and fill in these 2 holes on each side of the leg and this one here on the back as well. So of course, good old hobby knife. We'll cut off a couple little chunks here. Alright, since we got our fairly basically same size pieces, close enough. I'm gonna wet my fingers a little bit, and actually I probably should have got the plastic off first. Yeah. And just keep your fingers moist. You're gonna work them both together. This adding these 2 together and mixing them real well will get them activated. This will take a good minute to get everything mixed in and all solid. It'll be one solid color once you get it all done and mixed up together. Alright, so once you get it all mixed up together pretty good, it'll just be kind of an off-white sort of tannish color. Not much in a color change, but you can tell the difference, of course, once you have it mixed in pretty good. And since we're only filling in a few holes here, we'll pinch a bit off. I'm going to kind of roll it up and actually get these armory pieces off of here. And basically just shove it in there and kind of get it formed out. And after you get it kind of pushed in there, if you're just filling in a little spot, get that off the edge there so I don't miss it. Kind of get it as level as you can because you don't want a whole lot of extra there to have to sand off. And make sure you keep your fingers wet as you work with this junk. And you just kind of keep working it and filling in that hole until you know it's all good and filled in. There's no air pockets or anything really. That way you will get a nice good fill on it. You won't have any like little divots and have to add more later on. Alright, we'll just do the same to all these other holes here. Alright, so we got those all filled in. Of course, left a little bit humped up on each part, you know, that way you have a little bit to work with and work down as you start sanding on these. And seeing as how I, of course, mixed way too much, at least for this video, I'm gonna just make a little shape here and then we'll show you how you can kind of sculpt this stuff a little bit. Let's kind of make it into a bit of an elongated cube here or some sort of deal. Alright, so now that we got all of our parts finished done, I just made that into shape. We'll make it into a spike or something when everything sets, and I'll give these 12 hours or so and then we'll be back and we'll shape these parts out, guys. I'll see you in a little bit. Alright guys, so we're back and all of our putty and everything seems to have cured. Now before we move on to cleaning these up and everything, as you see here I have multiple different sanding tools and everything. Here I have the Dispi, which these are sanding sponges, and these I typically like using for prepping for paint and everything, which these go from 2mm to up to 5mm thickness. And as you can see, there's multiple different grits and everything that come in these packages. These are very nice. Then another one of my favorites I love to use are Infinity sticks. And these are now, actually, they're not 400 grit anymore. That's almost a buffing pad. I got more on order. But on average, what I use on these is 400 to 1,000. And then I also have some of their, I think they call them their zebra sticks or something like that. And just to keep these in the lower grits for when I'm kind of doing larger parts and getting them cleaned up and everything, which we'll probably be using these here in a moment. Then I also, from Dispi, have these. These are the aluminum sanding boards, which you get their adhesive sanding sticks, or sanding paper. And I have these in multiple different grits here. I got from 1200 to 1000 to 800. And these are great for shaping parts and changing a little bit of definition, as there's no flex and no give. So you can really flatten out and change the shape of things with these. And also I have this from Gun Primer. And this uses, I think they call it like their flex loop sort of deal. So easy to replace, no problem there. And I have 400 and 600 grit on these, which I got this for shaping as well and everything. So it kind of, these move up in the level that these don't go to. And for reference, it says on here, if I can get to focus, you have a level 1 and a level 2, so you know which one is your higher and lower grit, so you can keep track of that. And also I got these, which are a little new to me. Actually, to be honest, I ordered these, my idiot self thought these were actually separate little metal files. But what you do with these is they're little different thicknesses and width for tiny little nooks and crannies and everything, but you have to supply your own adhesive sanding paper, which I just use the Spy sanding paper that I have for the boards. Just cut down a size and put on these, which these are becoming one of my favorite things to have for little detailed areas and stuff like that. As you can see, this comes with plenty of different sizes and widths and everything, and these are made by Madworks. So I would recommend getting these for some little tiny hard to reach places. And then also, it's always good to have just a simple set of files. I have these, just a basic set, $10 I think, so I got these from Tamiya. These work great, especially when you are going to try and reshape something completely. They take off quite a bit pretty quick, and then you can kind of fine tune the shape and clean it up and smooth it out a bit more with some of your other options. But I just wanted to go through some of the different sanding tools that I typically use in my builds and everything, and each thing has its own sort of purpose and place to be used. And oh, I almost forgot about this little guy. These I pick up from Hobby Lobby, and I usually get the blue ones from there because they have a rougher grit and then a finer grit on each side. So I do like these a lot. They come great for small space and everything again as well. But as I was saying, so these are the basic tools I use for just about any sanding I do, and these are all cured up and everything now, so I'm going to use a few of these different ones. I'm not going to use them all, just want to kind of show you what basic tools I use when it comes to sanding. And we'll get these cleaned up, and we'll see how these parts look afterwards, because everything's cured nicely. Okay, as you can see here, I've created quite a bit of mess, you know. But that brings me to another thought before it slips my mind. When you're doing sanding, especially, you know, what little I've done here, you can see what kind of dust and everything was created. So I recommend wearing a mask when you're doing all this. It'll help. You really shouldn't be breathing a bunch of this crap in. So I highly recommend wearing a mask. But on from there, as you can see, we've got everything cleaned up pretty nicely. These feel nice and smooth. Those two scribe lines that I put into this, smooth them out very nicely. That worked pretty well. As you can see here, these came out really well. Hopefully the camera can pick it up with these white parts. Sorry, still figuring out lighting in my new room. But that's nice and smooth. Nothing issue there. Got the shoulder armor here cleaned up. Of course, some of these need a little bit more sanding, you know, smooth it out a lot better and everything, but this is kind of a quick job. And got down in there in that little groove right in there, filled in that area. And then also with the little chunk that we made, I just did a little quick work on it. And as you can see here, you can take the Tamiya epoxy putty and get it to sculpt just about wherever you need, you know, kind of get it close to shape of what you're looking for, and then just go to town on it. But this will probably be the last video of the 30-minute missions kit I'm working on, until of course I paint it and have the final show to y'all and everything. But hopefully these videos have been helpful for y'all to try some new things, different little tricks and stuff like that. And until next time, guys, later.